Night City, a multicultural metropolis of the 21st century, overrun by corporations, corruption, organized crime, and gang violence. In its wide streets and dense urban skyscrapers, there are millions of stories to be told under its neon glow, from the stories of hardship and suffering to the legends of those such as the likes of Johnny Silverhand. It boasts itself as the City of Dreams, a location where anything is possible. Don't delude yourself though. Nightmares are equally included. Under all of the positive and negative facades are the hands of those much more fortunate, pulling every single string. Invisible hands that operate in silence, providing only the illusion of freedom or rebellion. A legend is born, a corporate exec is killed, an influential tower collapses. It's all because they allowed it. No more, no less. Many of these stories can be traced back to the very origins of Night City and Night Corporation. Traced back to a man who laid the foundation of Night City with very different goals in mind. A man named Richard Knight, who had once envisioned an ideal city, one protected from all the pain and suffering spreading within the world. A utopia, an ideal that has long since been corrupted, turning to a city that houses everything it once stood against. Though Richard Knight has left the world long before 2077, there are still those who wish to uphold the values he once held. Those who wish to bring Night Corp back to the power it once had, above the likes of even Arasaka or Militech. Today, we will be discussing everything to do with the origins of Night City, Night Corporation, and the many conspiracies surrounding its prominent member, Mr. Blue Eyes, and alleged AI project codenamed Oracle. This is the unraveling of the truth behind Night City and Night Corporation. But before we continue, I just have a quick word about this channel's partner, G Fuel. Their product line are essentially energy formulas that provide a great drink alternative that has the caffeine, taste, and zero sugar that I usually look for. I'm a huge soda drinker, so to have this alternative is honestly very beneficial to me. They even have a Phantom Liberty collector's box for pre-order right now in official collaboration with CD Projekt Red. You'll get a 40-serving tub and a 24-ounce stainless steel shaker cup, which has some cool Phantom Liberty art on it. You can always order the formula on its own, but I actually really like the design of the shaker. If you're interested in checking out their products, I will have my affiliate link down below, and if you end up wanting to buy some G Fuel or maybe even that collector's edition and would like to support the channel while doing so, make sure to use code LaidbackGamers for 20% off as well. Alright chooms, now we can begin. In the year of 1954, Richard Knight was born in Pasadena, California, and was second of 5 children. His parents were both researchers at Caltech, which specialized in materials science. It was likely because of this upbringing that Knight began to show an aptitude for engineering at a relatively young age. He would continue to pursue his education with this goal in mind, and would eventually find himself in college, with a roommate named Rami Zakarian. Initially, there seemed to be a spark between the two. Their ideas meshed well, and their hopes were high, so the roommates began a joint venture. It wouldn't be long until it all turned sour. Romney had retaliated against Knight due to their continuing difference of opinion and stolen the company the two had started. The angry Knight played the long game. He didn't begin flipping tables and aiming for Romney's throat. No. He shifted his major from engineering to business financial investment. Soon enough, armed with his newfound knowledge of the ins and outs of business, he regained his company from his old rival. Applying his backgrounds in engineering and investment, Richard, alongside his new colleagues Halsey and Ferris, founded a development company that specialized in using advanced construction techniques to build massive mega projects such as office complexes, airports, and even small cities in record time. The company, titled HFN, was widely successful in the years before the collapse, contributing to the construction of many large model communities around the world, and making all 3 partners extremely wealthy. Sometime before the 1990s, Knight would even marry his lifelong partner, Miriam Knight. Knight seemed to have everything a man could want: money, success, love, and on and on. He was a smart man though. He knew this wasn't going to last nearly as easily as one might think. Just because he had it now didn't mean it'd be sunshine and rainbows the next day. He was one of the few, such as Saburo Arasaka, who would foresee the impending economic collapse. He was concerned by the violence and disruption leading up to and following the global event. Additionally, working mainly on corporate-funded projects was swiftly becoming tedious and boring to him. Seeing himself in a unique position to deal with the problem, Richard started a side company known as Knight International and began to draw up plans for a new, ideal city, an environment that would be controlled and managed by corporations and would be ultimately safe from the economic and social disasters tearing the world apart. His new city would be completely self-sufficient and capable of holding off even the most determined marauders. It would boast planned neighborhoods dedicated to preserving the feel of different types of nationalities and cultures, as well as a super modern corporate center that would stand as a shining beacon of enlightened capitalism. It was ambitious, far-reaching, and visionary in its approach. A city so grand that all the other cities built before or after would pale in comparison. You're probably thinking about how foreign all these ideals sound in a cyberpunk dystopia and Night City itself. Well, 2020 hindsight, Choom. His next move was to secure the unheard of amount of capital needed to finance the project. Luckily for him, history and the forces of a collapsing society worked in his favor. With the collapse, many corporations were looking to establish their own urban areas, controlled zones, free of crime, poverty, or debt. A place where governments would be corporate run, allowing optimum zoning and no anti-business elements to interfere with corporate growth. Ideally, it would be a capitalist mecca of opportunity. Knight's dream city was tailor-made for that purpose, and the corporations eagerly lent him the raw cash required to begin the project. By 1992, Arasaka, EBM, and Petrochem had all signed on with Knight, and all that was left was to find the ideal location to build his utopian city. Richard was going to need a lot of land for his new infrastructure development, as well as access to both ocean ports and modern highways to develop the huge amount of materials that he would need to construct it. He sent scouting teams to scour the east and west coast of the besieged United States, but in the end, it was a small article in the San Francisco Chronicle that caught his eye. An article describing an incident of post-Holocaust horror that had taken place in a small town called Morro Bay, along the central Californian coast. Now a ghost town, Knight was able to buy the remnants of Morro Bay for pennies on the dollar. He was also aided by Petrochem, who had taken over the now abandoned Dinergy power plant in the town and was already planning to set up an offshore port and oil terminal site. A leveraged $132 million purchase securing the remaining parcels. Bankrolled by Merrill, Asukaga, and Finch, who wanted to make the new city a financial hub, Knight and Petrochem hired Arasaka to clean out the gangs and make the area safe again. Further funds came from external and somewhat shady investors lured to the project by the promise of lucrative building contracts and possible sources of extra legal income. To avoid the stigma of the Morro Bay massacre, the partnership renamed the area Del Coronado Bay, the site of their new utopia of Coronado City. However, thanks to the rather outsized personality of its founder, Coronado City soon became colloquially known by locals as Night City. By 1993, Coronado City needed more space than what the original geology of the bay could accommodate, so Knight leveled the surrounding hills and dumped them into the ocean as fill, reshaping the bay and also redredging the harbor to make it capable of porting the large ships needed to build the city. Moreover, the region was an ideal location for a station of the intercontinental maglev, which was meant to connect the city with even the east coast. Coronado City truly reflected its creator's vision. Instead of a huge construction of steel and glass, Knight's urban plan broke the new city into a series of neighborhoods, each with a different architectural style and theme, much like the original Disneyland's parks' various lands. In addition, Knight also paid homage to the late and lamented small hamlet of Morro Bay by recreating much of the original layout of the area in an open-air environment reminiscent of a seaside village called Old Downtown. The city and corporate centers were the glittering zones of high-rises and corporate parks. It was here that Richard Knight showed off his personal architectural skills in the designs of the mini corporate skyscrapers that were the most visible signs of Coronado City's rising affluence. Knight's vision was indeed expansive and truly visionary, but only catch came when he started to build it in May 1994. Although Petrochem and MAF were the major bankrollers for the Coronado partnership, they had one disadvantage: they weren't construction companies. For a job like Coronado City, the partnership was going to need someone who could bring in the machines and workforce to actually dig the holes and put up the steel. This is where Knight would make his second largest mistake, one right behind relying on corporations to keep their word. They eventually ended up partnering with the mob. The West Coast mobs, aka the Mafia, the Yakuza, etc., had maintained a stranglehold on the heavy construction on the left coast for decades. They controlled the construction unions, the transport unions, and most of the governmental agencies in charge of construction licenses, environmental impacts, and other building necessities. By investing a not inconsiderable sum in the partnership through a series of shell corporations, the mobs hoped to not only make a staggering amount of return on lucrative construction work, but also have the inside track on future gambling, prostitution, and drug franchises in the new city. However, Knight's visionary plan required using his own advanced building techniques and materials, which excluded a number of established unions and construction firms controlled by his organized crime partners, including his old associates, now called Halsey, Ferris, and Skiv, who were short on money and had unwisely joined with the local mob. This didn't make any of them happy, and Knight's further insistence that his new city would be safe and crime-free angered them even more. During the first 4 years of construction, there were daily threats against Knight's life. Being a proud and self-reliant man, Richard typically ignored them. When the threats escalated to the level of sabotage and intimidation, he called in his corporate partners, who dealt with the issue swiftly and ruthlessly. Eventually, Knight's luck ran out. On September 20th, 1998, he was shot and killed in his penthouse suite at the top of a newly constructed Parkview Tower. Knight's killer was never apprehended, and in his memory, the newly appointed city council officially renamed Coronado City as Knight City in his honor. After his death in 1998, his wife Miriam Knight restructured the company and founded Knight's Foundation in 1999. The company's official goal was to protect and promote Richard Knight's vision of the perfect city. During the infamous mob war set between 2009 and 2011, the foundation attempted to gain mega corporate support to end the reign of crime in the city, but to no avail. Eventually, the corporations took the city back on their own after business between them and the mob had turned sour. After the conflict, Knight's Foundation was restructured again, returning to its corporate roots and renamed to Knight Corporation, Knight Corp for short. Allegedly, Miriam realized that to have any power in the city, you have to play by the rules of the big businesses to get ahead. Since then, the corporation remained a constant presence in Knight City, expanding their field of activity but avoiding power struggles with other major corporations. Although Miriam would eventually step down from the role of CEO long before the 2070s, her legacy and ideals were always upheld by her successors. After the HQ disaster of 2023, in which Silverhand and Militech bombed the Arasaka Towers, Knight Corp offered generous pay and free cyberware and biomonitor upgrades to anyone willing to help clean up the crater of radioactive rubble at Ground Zero. Both the corporation and the city council claimed that casualties were kept to a minimum, while at the same time they did not provide official statistics to substantiate said claim. Nevertheless, they have been under pressure to release such documents since most rescue, engineering, and rubble cleanup teams were not local Knight citizens, but nomads, especially from the Avocado Nation. In 2030, Knight Corp gave a grant to the recently founded Ziggurat Corporation in order to help them transform the old fiber optic data term network into a new system, creating one of the first city nets and data pools in the world, and restore cheap and reliable communication across NC. This was a necessity of the time because of Rache Bartmoss. He had corrupted the IG protocol net in the early 2020s with a data crash, which made it unusable. In 2068, NCART was bought out by Knight Corp after an incident in which unknown attackers released poison gas in the subway stations across Night City, leading to prolonged riots and NCART's bankruptcy, providing Knight Corp control over a large portion of the city's transit. By 2077, Knight Corp was nominated as the 5th biggest and best corporation to work for in Night City, due to an announcement of reducing mandatory workweek hours to 80. The company was considered the leader in providing top-tier investment opportunities and were sponsoring the NC Corsairs football team, giving them exclusive rights to cyberware equipment designed in the company's top-secret football science lab. Knight Corp was also involved in many infrastructure projects. They had already finalized their conceptual engineering efforts with the aim of revitalizing the maglev system in Night City, expecting it would one day connect Corpo Plaza with the NUSA's East Coast. The corporation began to repair sections of the old net, as well as drilling a new tunnel beneath the city foundations from its construction site on the Badlands to the northeast. Construction was expected to finish in 2078, with the first connections operational by the end of said year, and with the city of Chicago by 2080. It was around this time Sandra Dorsett, an employee of the corporation, stole information from Knight Corp on a databank, which was something Sandra wished to expose to the public. Unfortunately, in the middle of her objective to expose the company she was working for, Sandra was captured by scavs and had her biomonitor muted by a jammer chip forced into her neuroport, leaving Trauma Team unaware of her condition. Luckily, the mercenaries Jackie Wells, T-Bug, and V infiltrate the den to find her floating in an ice-filled bath. V acts quickly to remove the chip, and Trauma Team arrives to take custody of Sandra. This is not where their story would end. Later down the line, V is contacted for yet another gig in relation to Sandra. This time, however, it was to recover an encrypted data shard, the one lost during her kidnapping. Sandra's requirements are simple: keep the data on the shard concealed and ensure it is delivered to her promptly. V has a choice though. They can decrypt the data shard, titled Operation Carpe Noctem, before meeting with Sandra. If this is done, a disturbing experiment will be uncovered. Here are the findings. The tests have come back successful. The artificial intelligence CN07 has proven itself capable of bypassing commercial, device-specific, and macro security systems accessible to Knight Corp employees of the lowest ranks. None of the test subjects were aware that this experiment was being conducted on them. In compliance with the orders it was given, CN07 focused mostly on subject HK13, which at the time of the experiment's commencement was classified as calm and empathetic. After a period of subliminal conditioning, as we predicted, HK13 began to display acute psychopathic behavior. The highlight was a dispute over coffee, during which HK13 strangled one of their colleagues, then jumped out of a 16th floor window of the research facility. We will soon commence the next phase of the procedure, and install CN07 onto the devices of our actual target." End quote. It's obvious what is happening here. Knight Corp is utilizing artificial intelligence to control not just their workers, but other figures Knight Corp deems useful to them. This likely sounds familiar, and it should. This information can easily be tied into the Dream On questline, in which V investigates the apartment of Jefferson Perales, a member of the Night City Council and a candidate in the upcoming election for mayor. Jefferson explains that he witnessed an intruder in their apartment several nights ago. He recalled shooting the man, but losing consciousness shortly after. Oddly, their private security, SSI, denied that an incident occurred. During his search of the apartment, V will locate a secret monitoring station, whereby Elizabeth and Jefferson were being observed without their knowledge. Prompted by Silverhand, V follows the cables leading from the room to the rooftop of the building, where there is an old-fashioned transmitter, After scanning the vicinity, the direction of the transmitter's dish reveals a distant van near another antenna. The vehicle in question is parked in the Japantown subdistrict of Westbrook. When approached, it will be revealed as a heavily modified Emperor 620 Ragnar, which will begin driving away. Chasing it, V finds it entering a Maelstrom compound near the All Foods factory. After infiltrating the facility, V can find an encrypted shard regarding a Project Undine on one of the agents. It reads, "Notice to all Team Black field operatives. Project Undine has sustained a Class A security breach and has been suspended, effective immediately. Blue and Orange teams are withdrawn. Team Alpha Black is ordered to withdraw to evac. Code 8 Bravo. Local armed friendlies will provide cover for extraction. Team Alpha Black is notified that Control has authorized termination protocols in the event of capture or incapacitation." End quote. So obviously V's knowledge of this has forced the agents to fall back and activate some new protocols in relation to this project, though it becomes obvious that the project isn't altogether abandoned. It's worth way too much to give up on. Accessing the vehicle's database will uncover evidence that a shady organization is manipulating the brains of Jefferson, Elizabeth, and others to modify personalities and behavior. The process had already caused severe memory loss to both Jefferson and Elizabeth. The existence of the security contractor SSI is clearly a front for another corporation or group, which is heavily implied to be Night Corp during the full disclosure questline by Sandra Dorset. Jefferson will be waiting for you in a park located in Corpo Plaza in the city center. When you begin to near the meeting location, your optics will be spiked as you receive a call from an unknown individual, who warns you not to cross the line by revealing to Jefferson what you have learned, and that no matter what you tell him, the outcome will not change.
Yeah?
It doesn't matter what you tell me. It doesn't matter what you think of doing or do. You can't change anything.
What?
We know who you are. We know what you are. We know what you want. You are playing with fire. Don't dare cross the line.
In the meeting location, Jefferson asks V about the investigation's result. You can choose to tell Jefferson the truth about the brainwashing, or lie and omit the information you got from the van. If you decide to tell him the truth, Jefferson is shocked by the terrifying information, and also angry at Elizabeth about lying to him. He will decide to play along with his manipulator's plans until he sees an opportunity to expose them, but potentially risking his life and the lives of his family. If V follows the words of Elizabeth and chooses to lie to Jefferson, he will tell him that there is no news and that SSI had been receiving money from Weldon Holt among many other clients. Jefferson will decide to win the election first and then deal with Holt later. But either way, just like the unknown caller said, no matter what you say, the outcome will not change. Jefferson Perales will always win the Night City election, something that has been planned out since his childhood, an invisible force that controlled every bit of his life and will do the same to Night City. Why do I say this? Well, Jefferson grew up in poverty, but his life turned around when he was given a full ride scholarship to Berkeley University, valued at 2.7 million eddies by Night Corp, to study law. It was there that he met his future wife, Elizabeth, who was also studying law thanks to the same Night Corp scholarship. Every step of their lives can be traced back to Night Corp and a mysterious group of blue-eyed men, one of which, known only as Mr. Blue Eyes, can be seen at the Corpo Plaza Park, on a terrace overseeing the meeting between V and Jefferson Perales. The lore in Cyberpunk Red speaks of urban legends of blue-eyed people, who are rogue AIs that have taken control of human bodies and are secretly manipulating the highest levels of politics and finance. Johnny Silverhand even promotes this idea through his dialogue after Dream On.
What would you do?
Somehow I doubt it's people who are behind this.
Find out what the
So
blockbuster
aliens?
being hit.
Very funny. You're too young to remember this, but not so long ago, people talked about rogue AIs prowling cyberspace.
So, not aliens.
Doesn't matter who. What matters is that guy decided to take up the gauntlet. My man.
Mr. Blue Eyes isn't unique to just this questline. It can be seen in 2 endings, including one within Phantom Liberty. So, spoilers ahead. I will have the video timestamped so you can skip past the coverage on the 2 endings. During the Sun ending, V will become a living Night City legend. In his newfound reputation, he meets with a new client to discuss the greatest heist of all time. This client turns out to be Mr. Blue Eyes, the same exact one from the Dream On questline. The op is the infiltration of the Crystal Palace while it's undergoing test of a new security system. There's an unheard of promise between the two in exchange for V's success in the heist.
You know why I hired you? Because you'd do anything at all for even the faintest chance at survival. Even if it meant coming to within a hair's breadth of your untimely death.
This time tomorrow, should have the casino's client data. All of it. Don't forget your side of the bargain.
Oh, I never forget a promise. Good luck.
The assumption here is an exchange to extend V's life, maybe even cure him. Though we might never know. We also see Mr. Blue Eyes in one of the 2 Phantom Liberty endings. This will happen only in the event that you choose to side with Songbird during Firestarter. Eventually you'll find yourself at the NCX spaceport, and during this mission you'll see Mr. Blue Eyes appear to watch over V and Songbird. When V is sneaking through the Tycho terminal, he can be spotted looking out of a window that overlooks the construction area. Later, Songbird reveals that her flight to the moon was handled by an unknown proxy, which she described as a corpo everyman for the ages with an expensive, understated suit, dark hair, and blue eyes. He had asked her questions only she knew the answers to, including about the Black Wall, her past, and the NUSA.
One thing you forgot to tell me. Who got you this flight?
Funny thing is, I don't know. Proxy showed up. A corpo everyman for the ages. Expensive, understated suit, dark hair, blue eyes. He asked me questions. The kind only I know the answers to.
Blackwall. That the issue?
And other things. Rather not talk about it. Just don't judge me, okay?
Lastly, Mr. Blue Eyes can be spotted when V and Songbird take the monorail to the rocket, standing on the platform to the right and holding an umbrella. It isn't entirely clear just how he benefits from aiding Songbird, but one can imagine the ties he has with those who will help her. Maybe even make some use of a Black Wall and Rogue AI beyond that she happens to be connected to. The urban legends spreading make it clear that Mr. Blue Eyes isn't alone in these suspicious actions. There are plenty more of those just like him. We can even take this concept a step further when we look into Gary the Prophet. Gary can be seen throughout the campaign spreading various theories. Gary even mentions how blue-eyed people live in space and come down to Earth to control politicians, a clear connection being drawn to the urban legends of Red, the Net, and the manipulation of Jefferson. While spouting a theory that nomads are actually werewolves, Gary inadvertently offends 2 members of the Aldecados, forcing V to step in and rescue him. With his life saved, Gary tells V that one of his implants allow him to listen to communication channels, which he believes to be aliens. He guides them to what he believes to be a meeting site for the Lizard Men, though this turns out to be a meeting between Maelstrom members and 2 unidentified corpos. The importance of Maelstrom needs to be pointed out, as they are both a tech and rogue AI obsessed gang, if their disturbing cybernetics didn't make it obvious to you. Also of note is that you see them during the Dream On questline, when you chase down that van. V is able to recover a data chip from this meeting that, when decrypted, presents to us an unknown plan is set to be executed, going by only the name Project Oracle. Further analysis into this name though, an oracle by definition is a person through whom a god is believed to speak. This, just like Silverhand's previous comment, further supports the idea that Rogue AI, or even just some sort of in-house Nightcorp AI, is controlling the blue-eyed men in suits. When V returns from the meeting, they learn from one of Gary's supporters that he's been abducted by black-suited people with blue eyes, who took him into an AV and flew away to their quote-unquote mothership. Gary's friends tried asking for help to the NCPD, but the offer simply claimed Gary was sick, and let him be taken away. Afterward, we can even find a niche in the Columbarium dedicated to him. He knew too much, so they dealt with him. There's a clear connection to be drawn between these different quest lines. Gary the Prophet, Peralez, Sandra Dorset, Night Corp, and Mr. Blue Eyes are all connected, all tying into a mysterious plot to take back control of Night City and extend their reach to as many politicians, legends, and information as possible. After all, the main goal of Night Corp is to protect and promote Richard Knight's vision of the perfect city. There's even some theories floated around on just who Mr. Blue Eyes is. This theory presents that Mr. Blue Eyes is the reconstructed personality of Richard Knight, who now looks to seek out control of Night City from the shadows once again, hence the brainwashing of political figures such as Peralez to control the city. I'm not entirely sure how much I buy into this idea, as there's certainly zero way he was soul killed to perfectly replicate him into an AI, and personality construct tech wasn't really around during his time of death. So it would essentially be an AI meant to regurgitate all his ideals and maybe mimic what they know about his personality. But by no means could he be considered a true recreation of Richard Knight. But what exactly could the body be, and what makes it stand out enough to be the protective husk of a theoretical Richard Knight? Well, there's been another theory floated around that this body belongs to Morgan Blackhand, the Solo in Night City legend. Those familiar with the tabletop lore would be aware of his presence and leadership during the 2023 Arasaka bombing, under contract by Militech alongside Silverhand, Spider Murphy, Rogue, and many more. His disappearance after the nuke and his duel with Atom Smasher makes the situation all the more mysterious. He was the top Solo despite his minimalist approach to cyberware and contended with the likes of full Borgs. The primary crutch of this theory lies in the fact that the 2077 model listed as Blackhand looks extremely similar to Mr. Blue Eyes. It would also make sense that all the bodies that would be prioritized by Knight, Blackhands would be the most capable. I, however, have some contempt for this theory. Sure, I believe Blackhand is alive in 2077, as his whereabouts are unknown and he is confirmed to be alive in the year of 2045 by Mike Pondsmith, but I find it extremely doubtful that he would be taken over by a rogue AI, especially since Pondsmith is so protective of his character's story that he didn't even allow his appearance in 2077. I actually believe that there's a very good story to be found in just why the model is named the way it is. The developers likely did want to include Morgan Blackhand at some point in the story, at least in Silverhand's flashbacks. However, due to Pondsmith's wishes, it was elected to exclude Blackhand but not make waste of a character asset that had already been produced. So, it got tossed over onto Mr. Blue Eyes and El Capitan. I don't think there's any more to that story, and I think the detail gets looked into a little bit too much. It's pretty common for assets to be recycled in game development. So, is Mr. Blue Eyes a reconstruction of Richard Knight? Possibly. Is he controlling Blackhand's body? Extremely doubtful. Though don't forget that at the end of the day, these blue-eyed men could also be rogue AI from beyond the Black Wall, infiltrating Night Corp and Night City to fulfill their own agenda. With the personality and appearance tech that NUSA has, you can't truly trust anybody in Night City to be who they say. And that, everyone, is everything I have to say about the origins of Night City, Night Corp, and the Blue-Eyed Legends. I hope you all enjoyed and perhaps learned something new to further your knowledge of the cyberpunk world and its conspiracies. Let me know all your thoughts down below and make sure to subscribe to keep up to date with the latest cyberpunk lore. As always, thanks to all the channel members up on screen. The consistent support and encouragement always motivates me to continue producing content to the best of my ability. I am truly appreciative to be able to share these videos with the community. This channel has grown so much since the release of Phantom Liberty, and I look forward to its future. So, make sure to have a great week, and I will see you later, chooms.